Hey, good morning, guys. I got Lisa Myers, bots. Peacock, is it Peacock Pest Management?
Peacock Pest Prevention.
Peacock Pest Prevention. Where are you out of?
Just north of Houston, Texas, in a little town called Tomball.
Got it. Cool. So, I way back in 2019, we somehow were trying to get together to do a podcast together, and then I wasn't doing live. I didn't start Zoom, so and I totally forgot. And then we started talking, and of course, I created a small crap storm, and then we connected again, and then you agreed to come on. So I do thank you for coming on. To deal with the issue of women in pest control, and some people might think by one post that I am totally against women being in pest control when I've actually been talking about it openly about how we need more women in pest control for the last 7 years since I've been doing this podcast. So I just want to have that conversation about the realities of a lot of the stuff that I talk about. Nobody wants to put out in the open. Everybody wants to keep it in the boardrooms and in the groups and in the meetings. But I think we just need to have the honest conversation about the realities. From a man's perspective, I can only see it from a man's perspective. I'm not in a woman's shoes, so I want to get a real woman's perspective on the realities, especially you, because you have a lot of experience in this industry, both in management and leadership, in the group, and you own your own business now. So I think you bring a really fresh and unique, position to where you can speak from a position of not only expertise, authority, but as a woman, which I can't speak for. So thank you for being on the podcast. And let's go. How the heck, first of all, I always ask this question because I'm always intrigued by it. How the heck did you get into pest control?
So I was a single mom, and I had been working for a company that got bought out by a big company, and they started laying people off. And I needed a job, and it was 2008. The economy was in the tank. There were no
Yeah.
jobs. And so I went to a job fair, and there was the orchid man standing there with their little lapels and stuff. And I was like, oh, you want somebody to kill bugs? No, thanks. And they're like, no, actually, we're looking for business to business salespeople. I was like, I can do that. So I got on board. I worked for them. I wound up moving from sales to service and running their multifamily division for 4 years. And then I went into their acquisitions department. And so I was with them for about 5 or 6 years, and then I moved over to Steritech.
Yeah.
I was with them for a while. Then they got bought out by Rent-A-Kill, and I'd said, you know what? This is ridiculous. I'm done. I don't want to work for the big companies anymore. I think I can do a better job. I don't have a problem with big companies, but the difference is the level of service. I think they're always about the numbers and the numbers and the numbers and the numbers,
Yeah.
and they forget there's people involved, and the right kind of service is really important. And so I wanted to do something that was more service based and less about the numbers. So I
Yeah.
started my own.
Right. So you originally, when you got in, were you didn't go in as a tech? You didn't do field work as a tech?
Not originally, but then when I was running the apartment division, I had no choice. I learned real fast by fire. I was the manager, but somebody calls in, you got a route to run. I did 90% of the bed bug work for that division by myself, lifting mattresses, moving furniture, all that stuff by myself.
Right.
For 4 years. So yeah, I have real world field experience. I was up and downstairs with products on my back and chemicals and B&Gs in my hand, up and downstairs at apartment complexes with a big, huge ring of keys trying to go, which one is this? And everybody knows the struggle of working in apartments. I did that for 4 years. So yeah, I know what it's like to be a tech. And then when I went to work for when I went into their branch management training program at Orkin, you have to do some of everything. That's part of the program. So if a technician in your region is out extended period of time, you go fill that position. If an admin is out for an extended period of time, you go fill that position, so that you know every aspect of running the office from the nuts to the bolts, and that makes you a better branch manager. So I
Of
did that
course.
for 6 months.
Yeah. Now, what did you do before you got into pest control? What was your career?
I used to work for Marriott Hotels and Resorts.
Got it. In management?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
So
worked my way up. I worked my way up there. I started at Bob's Big Boy, which is a
okay.
restaurant. When I was in high school, and then off and on again, different jobs, but I always kept going back to Marriott. So I worked the front desk, I worked housekeeping, I worked in the restaurant, and then I worked my way up to be regional sales manager for 3 properties here in Houston.
Got it. All right. So as far as, because I mean, I'm intrigued by these questions because I got guys in here who were electrical engineers and decided they're going to do pest control, which is like, why? You're an electrical. I mean, what did you study?
I just sold a rig, a spray rig, to a guy who's starting a new company up here on the north side of town, and he was in oil and gas. And when oil and gas started to fail through all this COVID stuff, he decided the one thing everybody needs is pest control. So he opened his own company.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of pest control. I think in general, this is just a generalization. Nobody ever wakes up in the morning and says, "I'm going to go be the Orkin man."
No,
I think everybody. I fell into this as a part-time job on a weekend, helping my brother-in-law out.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking to get into pest. He said, "Bro, I need help." He just begged me, man. I know you can do it if I just teach you how to. Basically, it was like. He wasn't teaching me anything. It was like tank mix 5 products and then spray every house down that you find. That was my training in pest control and doing lawn and ornamental. You mix when I talk about lawn and ornamental, most people in GPC in the industry don't have a clue because it's such a small, and it's actually treated as a separate branch of pest control. It's not even in the same category. They have their own magazine. They're not even considered pest control. But it was, you mix, 2 organophosphates, you mix, a fungicide, you mix 20-20-20, you mix a sticker, and you tank mix all these products together, and then you hose the planet down. That was my training in pest control. And then I got into GPC. So when I say things, I always usually think of pest control from a lawn and ornamental perspective versus mostly a GPC. To me, GPC was so easy compared to lawn because I just did that for 10 years exclusively. I was 95%. I couldn't sell a GPC job to save my life. So when I look at the difficulty and people talking, "Oh, can I mix this bifin with this?" I said, "Dude, I mixed 7-8 products together in a tank. What do you mean, can you mix it?" And it's still this. So when I think of women in pest control, I said, man, how's a woman going to carry that 55-pound, bag of fertilizer? And I usually think of it from, that's hard. It's hard for me.
It's hard for anybody. But, when you say that, just because it's hard doesn't mean it can't be done. We carry babies on our hips all the damn time. We're built for that.
Yeah.
I mean, I carried a baby in a carrier with a diaper bag. If you don't think I was used to carrying 60 to 75 pounds, I am.
Right.
And we're built for it. We actually have the hips to hold it. We might not carry it this way. We might carry it this way, but we can still carry it. And when it comes to strength, it's not about, nobody wants to be hot and sweaty. Nobody wants to have a manual labor job. But once you have one, it's about doing the conditioning, taking care of your body, and doing what you need to do to build up the strength, to do it on a regular basis. And women are just as capable of doing this as men.
No, I totally agree on the capability. There's never an issue. I mean, I know women who are pole climbers. I would never climb on a pole. I mean, I'm just too scared of heights. So when we look at the capability and when I look at the analytics, and you've been in management, and I'm sure you've looked at the profile of what it takes to do this job, it's more of soft skills than it really is the hard skills. Yes, a lot of the work is hard, but it's more. And I think in the soft skills part, on the emotional, the EQ versus the IQ, I definitely think women are way better at it.
But I don't think that that's hardwired by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think that that's something you're born with. I think that's something we're conditioned with.
Right.
So little girls are, what are little girls made out of?
Sugar
cinnamon
and
spice and everything nice, and then
not
what
mine.
Well, but we condition ourselves. We condition our people to be. I mean, women in Africa feed their family termites. It's a protein, a staple of their diet. These women aren't afraid of bugs. Right. The reason why women tend to be more afraid of bugs in the United States is because of the way we condition our little girls. if we let our little girls, so I have two daughters. My oldest one, when she was younger, she was a Girl Scout and she was camping. She's staying in this, it's, I guess it's like, it's a semi-permanent tent where the sides roll up when nobody's in it, but they roll them down to sleep at night. And she's asleep and she wakes up screaming. And I was the Girl Scout leader. She wakes up screaming. That tent was infested with American roaches.
Ooh.
Infested with them. And so she woke up with roaches all over her. And so she is afraid of bugs, but you would be too if that was your experience when you were 11, not,
Right.
you know. Now, my youngest daughter, I started working in pest control when she was about 11, and she helps me. I would bring home, I'd go pick up bait stations from a client, and I'd be on my way home. So I'd come home, I'd clean them off in my driveway, and then bring them back to the office for storage the next day. And my daughter's out there with gloves helping me and going, Mom, what's this bug? What's that bug? What's this? She works for me now. It's the way we're conditioned. It's not about hardwired male or female.
Yeah. I take my daughter's been going with me to work since in a carrier. I literally, because I had to take care of her during the day and I had to go out and work, and I was doing, so when I was doing GPC, I would take her with me and I would put her next to me. And as she grew up, she would just walk next to me with a flashlight. She's not afraid of bugs. She's, you know, she knows the difference between, you know, an arachnid and because she's been with me. My son is another case. He can't stand still. I can't bring him in a home. He would break everything.
So just like we broke our daughters of their fear of bugs, men can be broken of the lack of EQ. You know, we teach our boys, oh, buck up, stop it, man up, stop crying. Stop teaching them that. It is okay to have emotions. It is okay to feel. But for years and years and years, we've been telling men that it's not okay to feel. It is completely okay to feel. And the more you feel, the more empathy you can have for your clients. And that, I think, is where women excel. But it's not because we were born this way. It's because we were raised this way. And we need to start raising our sons differently. There is no reason why a man can't listen to a woman client and actually hear what her complaint is. I cannot tell you how many times as a manager, I would have a homeowner call me and say, this guy just isn't listening to me. I don't want him to do this. I don't want him, but he's just doing it because it's part of his job.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, what's going on? And so she would explain to me, I don't want any chemicals in this portion of my home for whatever reason, and da 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 da. And then I would call that tech and have to put it in words that he could understand. We shouldn't have to do that. Shut up and listen.
Yeah, I mean, no, I totally get that. And one of the reasons, even look, I'll tell you, I am that way. I'm just, you know, I can come across as on text as a tough kind of textured guy. I'm really a really sensitive guy. So most of my clients, I guess because of the nature of what I sell and what I do, they're actually women. I don't rarely speak to men. Yeah, so I'm always selling to women. Mm-hmm. Most of the time. I would say it's probably more than 60-40. When it comes to lawn, yes, the men, and they're talking to me about it, but most of the time for the home, and I'm dealing with women. And I'm totally comfortable in that, and I can relate. Probably because I was raised by a single mom. I didn't have a dad. So I kind of, my son is more sensitive than my daughter. My daughter is pretty hard. I mean, she's hardened for 11. I mean, you know, she sets you straight. I mean, quick. My son is very mama's boy, very, you know, gentle and stuff like that. And so it's like, you baby him. I says, I don't baby him. It's just the way he is. I deal with you two differently. Me, her, I'll have a, I treat her more of a guy than I treat him. But she's wired and she can accept it.
But see, and that's what I'm saying is it's not about gender. It's about who the person is. Yeah. So you understand that your daughter can handle this and your son cannot. It's not about their gender. It's about their personality type. And that's why I'm saying gender has no place in a discussion about who should or shouldn't be in the field in pest control. Right. Because anybody can learn to do this. Yeah. And anybody can learn all of the skills, not just the carrying, but they can learn the soft skills too if they want to take the time and do it. Right. And I think that one of the reasons why so many women wind up moving into management positions is because we're just thinking outside the box. Yes, nobody wants to do the physical part of this until they're 75.
No,
Nobody
trust me.
wants to.
I'm done I'm done in the field. I'm hurting. Bad
Male
knees.
Right, male or
Yeah,
female, your body wears out if you do this repetitive work over and over and over again. The pumping, it gets to your elbow.
yeah,
The kneeling to empty tin cats and stuff like that, it gets to your knees, and that's going to affect you no matter how well you take care of your body. Over time, repetitive use creates injuries, and we all know that. It's proven. That's what tennis elbow is.
right.
But so I think that women, because we have the soft skills, are a lot better at transitioning from the field to the office, and not necessarily the admin side of the office, but the management side or the training side of the
Right.
office. And that being said, though, my mentor and best friend, who is the co-founder of Women in Pest Control with me, she's 65 and she's still in the field. She runs a route. She's got her own business, Bug Lady Pest Control in Austin, and
Okay.
she runs a route. It's her route. It's one, her and her wife run the business. Her wife does the admin and she's out in the field, and she runs a route, and that's all. And she's still doing it, still going strong at 65.
Right. No,
Um,
since I did mostly lawn, but I
mm,
also, I didn't do just lawn in my life. I did construction, I did landscaping. And I'm 165 pounds at my heaviest. I'm not a big guy. I'm 5'10". Carrying an 80-pound bag of cement on your shoulder, is half my body weight. My feet are messed up, my knees are messed up from doing. So when I have to go in the field and I got to walk on uneven surfaces for long periods of time, I feel it. Like it it
yeah.
so I was spoiled that I was in an administrative, because I had 2 techs and I was getting a third. And one of them quit and I had to go back in the field temporarily. And man, after 2 years of being out of the field, I mean, I go in the field on a daily basis, but I would see one client. I would meet with them for coaching. Hey, why did we mess this up? One stop a day, and you're mostly talking. You're not really crawling on anything, carrying a hose or carrying anything. So I got spoiled, and then I had to go back into the field. And after 6 hours,
Oh yeah, I think
I'm
that's every business owner. Once you get a couple of techs under you and you don't have to work in the field, I think that's our greatest field. Please don't quit. Please don't quit. It's our greatest.
right.
Please don't quit. I
Yeah.
have too much to do here in the office. I don't have time for it to go out in the field, and
No,
I don't
I'm going
go out in
crazy
the field.
because I got to do the sales calls. I got to take all those calls. I got to do the admin work. Plus, I got to be in the field, and the stress of being in traffic. The stops. I know the stress. I mean, everybody thinks that I'm an owner, and we're owners, and we don't feel this stuff because, like, somehow we never did it.
Right.
It's like, dude, I was an employee for 15 years. Then I was a tech for 9. And then, I've been out of the field just 2 years.
Yeah.
And you
Me
think
too.
that,
I've been out of the field 2 years.
yeah,
Because when I started the business in 2017, I was just me, until I built it up. And then my husband came to work for me, and I taught him everything I know. And now he's a licensed tech. And at first it was him running it, and I was doing all of the sales calls and all of the work stuff. Once I got him on board, then COVID hit, and we got so busy during COVID, it was insane.
wow,
Because everybody stays home.
yeah,
If you've got a 1 hour commute, and then you're in the office for 9 hours, you got an hour commute back, you got to take your kids to this game and that game and soccer and da-da-da. You don't see that spider living in the corner of your house. But during COVID, when you're stuck at home, you see everything. And man, it went nuts for us. We tripled in size in 1 year. I had to hire another tech. I've hired an admin so I can be in the field more. It's insane how fast we grew during COVID.
yeah. I was looking over here. I wasn't ignoring. I was looking at the side of the comments that people are making, because we might be able to hopefully answer some questions. I've seen the questions, and I had my wife working with me in pest control, and I was trying to develop a system more that the fact that anybody, no matter if it was a young person, I'm just thinking more outside the box in a franchise mentality. a very simple system.
Mhm.
My wife she doesn't like being in the field, first of all. She hates being out in the sun and in the heat. She doesn't like it. It's just plain and simple. She gets migraines when she's out. She can't go to the beach. So I said, let me create a system that it'd be boom, 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 boom for maintenance, because I could do an 80-20 rule and say, I'll just hire maintenance techs, and then I'll hire maybe one or two, or move up, as they move up into, clean out techs and things like that. And I said, just handle the maintenance for right now. And because that was, I used to do all lawn. I was still doing lawn myself. And I said, I want to start doing GPC. I want you to take over that. I'll do the clean out. She says, as long as I don't have to deal with a rat or a roach, I'll do the maintenance. And I said, well, that's interesting, because what if that's all I needed? And I could hire 10 people to do just that. So I put her in the field. She did it, but she hated opening up rodent stations. I said, you kick it. There shouldn't be anything in there, and then roaches, people call, oh, this customer complained about her. Says, I'm not doing a roach job. I said, no, just put this bait out like this, and you do this, and you probably will never see it. And as long as she didn't have to deal with that, she was okay with ants, and she was okay with doing the cleaning and the sweeping and the maintenance, and try to make everything. I don't know if you saw a post. I don't know if you participated in that about 2 years ago. I said, I need to create a truck that's more ergonomic for women. Women are shorter than men on average. I said, if I take a Colorado and it's way up here and she's got to lift this up, it's like, why don't I just get a Nissan, which is almost a foot lower?
That's why I love the Tacomas, but even the Tacomas have been growing in size.
Right.
Supposedly Ford's coming out with a new, I can't remember what it's called. I think they're calling it the Highlander or something like that, which is supposed to be a small truck.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to seeing that one, because
Ford is coming out with a new one too. And so is Hyundai. Hyundai is coming out with a truck,
which we desperately need, because there's short men too. And there's when your fleet should be standardized and it should be easy for everybody. And if one truck goes down, somebody else should be able to drive it. Somebody gets sick, everybody should be able to drive it. They should all be set up the same way, and they should all be the same height. And that way there's no issues with access. Everybody can use any truck. It's been frustrating as the trucks keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger to try to find the right vehicle for fleet that'll fit everybody.
Yeah. And women, I talked to them, and I asked women about this. I said, and I'm thinking about between a truck and a van. Major concern that women had is, which men don't seem to have a problem with. Most of the women answers I got is, I don't like the van because the partitions don't seal, and I don't want to be breathing the chemicals or exposed. And they were really concerned about that when the guys weren't. I found that.
Exactly. And that's why I found it funny when you were talking about how you don't want your wife or women exposed to chemicals, or supposedly women are more. Here's the thing. Women are 10 times more likely to be safe in this job. We've all seen the memes. This is why men die faster, because they do stupid shit.
Yeah.
Men are less likely to wear the proper PPE. They're less likely to read the label. They're less likely to take their health into consideration when they're doing this job. Women tend to overall be safer on this job. And when you talk about worrying about reproductive health, which is something else you had said in there, if we're wearing the proper PPE and we're following the label, we are 10 times less likely to be exposed to the products than you are. And you know why? Because I don't have to touch anything. We all know that the number one way, dermal entry of most chemicals, is our genitalia. Women don't have to touch their genitalia. Men do.
Right.
Right away, that's one thing we got going for us in our reproductive health. We're safer right away. But the other thing that we have going for us in our reproductive health is we're 10 times more likely to be safe with the use of the products.
That's interesting. See, I hadn't seen that and I know, guys, I see it all the time. We do stupid stuff.
You put the ladder on the back of a truck so you can get a little bit higher, and a woman would never do that in a million years.
Yeah,
because safety first.
Yeah, it's just that when I deal with, like, even back then when I started in pest control, I even refused to use the organophosphates. And this was big still big in ornamental and lawn, to use a lot of organophosphates. You know, those are the things that worry me about that exposure because GPC is like getting exposed in GPC is really hard. If
Oh, no,
you,
it's really not. It depends on what you're doing in GPC. I mean, if you're spraying eaves, you're getting exposed if you're
yeah,
not careful.
yeah,
You know,
what, right.
if
No,
you're
no, I get
using
it.
a spray rig to spray the foundation, or even if you're using a backpack sprayer, you're getting a pressurized mist that's
Yeah,
fine droplets. You're going to get exposed if you're not being careful. If you're not worried about your drift, you're not worried about the wind, you're
yeah,
not paying attention, you're not wearing goggles, you're not wearing a hat, you're not taking care of yourself, you're exposed in GPC just as much as you are in lawn.
yeah.
And we're
Okay.
we're sitting here with our little handheld things spreading granules in people's gardens, and people aren't even paying attention to the dust that creates.
Yeah,
And
that's one of the things I didn't want to use it. I used shakers because
Mhm.
especially with like imidacloprid products, it's just so dusty. When I sprayed it once and I saw myself, I said, no way that. So I changed, a lot of things that I focus on. It mostly comes from a perspective of being conscientious and considerate more than being um sexist about it. It's more of I still don't I just can't treat a woman the way I still treat a man. From a it's hard for me to
And I
if I see a guy struggling, I said, bro, pick it up and figure it out. I see a woman struggling, I'm gonna go over there and help her.
okay, well, that's a problem with you. You should help
Yeah,
anybody who needs help, whether they're
right,
male or female.
right.
I mean, if they need help,
But you see it from a guy's perspective, it's like, and a guy
well,
would most likely be
like I was
offended.
talking about earlier with EQ, you
Yeah,
have to learn it. And
yeah,
and one of the ways to learn it is to help everybody, treat everybody equally. If the guy needs help, don't tell him to man up. Go help him. That's what we
yeah,
were talking about earlier.
yeah.
And it's very, my business is based on pretty green products. I mean, I do offer traditional, normal pest control products because you have to.
Yeah,
Um, but I also offer a complete botanical,
right.
service and I never ever spray baseboards in people's, and people are, they're like, well, aren't you going to bring that big metal thing in and spray my, no. And to
Same
those
way.
out there who are still doing it that way in people's homes, stop it. There's no reason to pour chemicals into somebody's house like that. It's
Yeah.
it's bad for you. And that's the one thing that I think women are really leading the way on in this industry, is changing it to be greener and safer. Look at Sissy Spraggins. I mean, she started Rockwell Labs because she was home raising her children, and she had a garden, and she's a PhD in biology and entomology. And she was bored while she was a stay at home, and she started playing with her herbs, and she discovered some of the properties, and now she's got a full line of botanical products that have been tested
Yeah.
and work.
No, I'm a huge. I mean, in our lawn and ornamental business, our ornamental business is about 95% botanical, with our service. And indoor, yeah, we're one of the companies that put it on our website. We have an exclusive indoor zero spray service. We don't
Yep.
have to baseboard. We haven't done it. I don't think
I've
I've
never,
baseboard
the
11
only time I've,
years.
the only time I've ever baseboard sprayed is if it's for an investor's property and he's flipping it between tenants and he just needs a clean out. And then it's a vacant house, there's nothing in it, nobody's going to
Right.
be there for a couple of weeks, but the one tenant's moved out, left a big problem, and we need to get it fixed fast. I'm going to go spray the baseboards, and then I'm going to bait high, spray low, bait high, get those
Right.
cockroaches taken care of. But that's the only time I'm spraying inside a house. That's
Right.
it. And people call me for roach clean outs, like, oh, I got German roaches and da 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 da, and I've got little kids. We can't be out of the house for 3 hours like all these companies are saying we need to do. I'm like, I'm not even going to ask you to get out of the house. I'm not even going to ask you to empty your
Yeah.
pantry.
Same here. Yeah, we do the same thing. And that's one of the reasons why, because of our branding, it really does appeal to women. And this is why I said I wish I had the more women in the industry. I mean, my wife even had it hard, because this is another question that comes up all the time, is if you're a female tech, you're not a business owner, you're a tech, and you show up to a house, and I've had this already come up before, where there's two issues. One is, is your husband coming to do the service, or Are
Oh
you
yeah.
here? Yeah. And you walk in and my wife even got that from women. It's like, can you have Frank call me?
Hmm.
And then says, you send your wife over. I want you to,
Oh, and I get it. I get it too.
yeah,
I'll walk up to a house because both of my guys are busy and I got to get a start done. I'll go do the start and I'll walk up to the house. They'll be like, "Oh, are you just here to inspect?" "No, I'm here to do the service."
right.
"Oh, well, I thought a guy would be coming." I was like, "No, I'm the owner of the company." you know,
Yeah.
I taught all the guys who work for this company. I
To do
taught
it.
them how to do the job.
Yeah.
So you're literally getting the best in the company.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how many people out there, mostly older, usually they're elderly people who have a problem with a woman being in their home. But this is a man's job. This is a man's job. No, it's not. And I'm really
Yeah.
good at what I do. If you're not happy, you can call the office and complain. Of course, you're going to get me on the phone. But
Yeah.
it's insane. But for the most part, that's changing, and we're seeing less and less of that.
Right.
But yeah, it does happen.
Yeah.
Most of the sexism that we see in the field comes from the guys, the other techs. If you're in a big office with a lot of guys and you're the only woman, because I posted this to Women in Pest Control, and I said, give me some examples. What are your stories?
Right.
And there's girls who have started, first day on the job, and the guys in the office are going, "Oh, she won't make it 6 months." What?
Right.
And now she's there 3 years and she's their lead tech.
Right.
So that gets old. And then I have women business owners who posted about this. They went to NPMA and they're walking the hallways in the vendor booths, and she actually heard a vendor say, "Oh, don't waste your time on them. They're probably just secretaries." They were the owners of a business.
Right.
I mean, this is insane, and it needs to be addressed at every level, across the board. Women have every right to be in this business, and we're really good at it.
Yeah.
We make up 1/3 of the executive committees of the top 10 pest control companies on PCT Magazine's list. So, there's a lot of us, and we're moving up, and we're coming for you. Get out of our way. And
No,
here's what I say with this, Franklin, is, women traditionally have gone into service industries, right? Nursing, teaching, things of that nature, because they're of service, and it's what women tend to gravitate towards, is service related jobs, which is part of the reason why we're paid less, because we're in service and service doesn't pay as high. But this is the last service related industry that women have not really kind of taken over. And we're coming, and we're learning. It's a great industry for women to be in. It is an incredibly easy to set your schedule around your kids, do your thing. I mean, I can give you a list of clients. I need these clients service this month. Set up your schedule. I have to drop my kids off at 8. I'm not available until 9. I don't set my appointment until 9. I have to be done by 2. I can go back out at 6, but I have to be there from 2 to 6 when my husband gets home. So let me finish the day at 6.
I love that, because I had the same issue. I had the same issue with my wife. Take our son to school. Like I said, most of the time I take him anyway, but take him, get it done, and then finish up by this time, and then you're done for the day. You can come home and do whatever you want to do. And I love that flexibility. A lot of companies that are larger aren't going to give you that flexibility. That's one of the biggest complaints. And I'm getting it from both sides, not only from women, but also from millennials who don't want to work the 50-hour weeks that a lot of companies require you to work in this industry.
Yeah.
And if you want to be, if you want to make 50, 60,000, you need to put in the 48 to 50 hours, because you need to do those 20 stops.
Right.
And it's based on production. So the more money you want to make, the more stops you got to make. I don't like that model. I like more the hourly model.
I pay hourly.
Yeah. And work with people on their, if you want to make more money and you want to be a hustler and you want to sell and you want to do it, it's there for you.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't make it a requirement in my company. I hire techs to be techs. I want them to be techs, and I want them to do the quality job. So then I know how much they can, and some guys can do more, some can do less.
Right.
I've had women tech. I've had another girl that you know, she was young. She was 20 something, you're 21, 22 years old as a tech. You know, she was about yay high, you know, 4 foot something. And
They're great for getting in crawl spaces.
yeah.
I had
See,
a
I wasn't gonna say that.
I had a technician. He was almost 7 foot tall. I mean, this big guy.
Yeah, that's hard.
And we were doing commercial, and we had a restaurant that had one of those floors that's a raised floor, and the roach problem was underneath the raised floor. So we had to pop a tile and get into the floor. He couldn't fit. So I had to go do it.
Yeah. No, I've got it. My one of my techs, he's 25. And I talk about millennials. Understand, Lisa, I've got to give everybody, I dish it out by the shovelful, but I can take it. So it's most of the time the people that actually know me know I'm being flippant about things. I don't know what it's like to not, I've never hired a Gen Xer. I've hired millennials, and I've tried to hire. The reason she quit was because a lot of the things were areas where she went to service. She felt really unsafe when you have to go into a bad area, and she was having to go into, and then going into a home where there's men by themselves. She felt unsafe. And
and that is a real concern for women.
Yeah.
But you know, a lot of it is how big is your company and how many people can you hire, and can you create the route that works for that person? And it's not just women. There's going to be young millennials, male and female, because millennials, the millennial man tends to be more in touch with his feelings and more in touch with what's important as far as time with family and time off. And they're not saying I don't want to work. They're saying I don't want to work your schedule. I would like to have work-life balance. And I don't believe that a 50-hour week is work-life balance. The younger men tend to be a lot more sensitive than what boomers are used to. Sorry, but it's true.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually a Gen Xer. Okay. So I don't look that old. Okay.
So am I. I'm a Gen Xer. Actually, I think we're the same age. I'm 51.
Yeah, I'm 51 too.
Yeah.
But I was working 50 hours a week when I was 19.
Yeah. Oh, I've been working since I was 15 years old.
Yeah.
It's the way we were raised, and it's
a
what
culture.
we did. Right. It's a culture thing, but our kids have not been raised that way. Most of them didn't have a job even through college. And, you know, they went to 22 years of school and never had to work. Right. So there's a whole different mindset coming out of that. And we as owners and bosses have to figure out how to make that work, just like we as owners and bosses need to figure out how to make it work for women.
Right.
So if I can make a route that's safe, I'm going to put the woman on that route.
Yeah.
If I can't, I'm going to have to talk to her about what her comfort level is and see if she's a good fit for the job. If she's not, I don't hire her. And it's not because she's a woman. It's because I don't have a position that will fit her needs. It's not about her gender. And same with the young kids. If they come to me and they're like, oh, well, I can only work, you know, this day and this day. I can't work that day. I can't work that day. If I can make that work for the work that I have, I can hire you. But if I can't hire you. And it doesn't matter your gender. It matters what my needs as a company owner are. Right. My technician is a millennial. He's a great kid, but he doesn't want to start working on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday until 9 o'clock because he's a swimmer. And he wants to go to the pool and get some laps in, and he does it 3 days a week. So I don't schedule him until 9 o'clock, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. That's not hard. Now, if he were to say, I can't do that, I need to be scheduled, 9, and I still have to be off at 2. No, I can't make that work. Right. I'm not going to hire you. Yeah. I need more time than that. So it's not about his gender. It's about what works for the company and that's where the interview process is so important. You have to set up the what this job is right up front with real expectations. And that includes a drive along. I mean, have your techs ride along with you and take them to the nastiest thing you have.
That's what I do.
Out.
Usually the interview ends right there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, if they're grossed out or they're shocked by the amount of work, or, oh my God, you got to do this 6 times a day, every day. Yes, this is what the job is. Oh, I'm out. Yeah. And I have just as many men walk. Actually, I have a lot more men walk because men apply more, but I have just as, it doesn't matter. Gender doesn't matter in that regard. They see it and they're like, oh God, I don't want to do this. Yeah. Which is why that ride along is the most important part. and overall, I don't think it matters gender wise, and I don't think it matters age wise. It just matters what the person's personality is and whether or not they're a good fit for the job.
Yeah, most of the time, they don't have the skills to deal with the customer.
Mm-hmm.
It's mostly the biggest problem we have is, I mean, I'll get 1,000 applicants. Well, it used to. I can't get one right. I can't get one the same. I know. It was funny because 3 years ago, we were hiring and we had about 3 positions and we had special projects going with the government and things like that. And I've got in 2 positions, it was like, I think it was 1,700 applicants, of which only, when I put them through the profile and I put them through the assessments and I put them through all this, 7 qualified. That's how bad it was. And then 1 actually showed up for the interview when we had the interview. I hired him knowing that he wasn't going to make it, but I still had to fill that position, and I gave him a chance because he was the only one that showed up. I mean,
yeah.
And he said, okay, I can do it. And so today I put out an ad. Yeah. 0 applicants. So that's just why I'm having the discussion, because I realize we need to figure out how we make this more appealing and we make this available as an option for people that have never thought about it. Like, I'm trying to get into the public schools and teach IPM as a, like maybe a little side class that somebody could take. Like, if you're not going to college, this might be a career option for you, because we got to get them early. I mean, when I did the surveys, I found 50% of the people that got into pest control got in between the ages of 19 and 25. The rest got in later.
Right, because they needed a job, because they found themselves in a position where, oh my God, I need something. A lot of people, that's what happened. I mean, that's
when I do the exit interviews, they say, no, I don't like the job, but I took it because I needed it, but I really don't like it, and
right. And I think that a lot of that is one of the things that I do is I work with Girl Scout troops. And I encourage everybody to work with your local Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, whatever, Boys and Girls Clubs of America, whatever. A lot of them have, badges or things that they can earn. And one of those badges is entomology. So bring your bugs, bring your spiders, bring your things, and go teach these kids and get them young. The younger you can get them, to realize that, I mean, it's just like when I go do pest control, I bring an extra flashlight. If there's a little kid there, come with me. Let me show you what I do, Right. And a lot of people are homeschooling, they've COVID hit and now they're homeschooling, or they homeschooled during it and now they've realized it's fun and they're staying with that model. And so I've got a lot of kids at home now, and they're curious. They're asking questions because that's what they do when they're homeschooled. Right. And so I'm going, oh yeah. And when I knock that paper wasp nest down, I bring it to them. Hey, so you see this is this, and that's that. Make it not scary, make it cool, make it fun, make them realize that this is a real job. Right. And that it's something that I'm not saying that when you're a little kid, you're going to dream of being a bug guy, but why can't you? Why can't it be just as much of a dream as being a fireman? It's a service. We're making people's lives safer. It's health and wellness. It's protecting our food source. I mean, it's one of the most important jobs out there, which is why we were essential during COVID.
Yeah, no, I hate it when I hear this. I don't care where it comes from. It's one of the things that burns me up. You're the bug guy. Like, some people, the majority of the world, let's forget about men and women. The majority of the world sees us as people that do pest control because somehow we couldn't do something else in life.
Uh-huh.
And I was looking to start a business when I came across this. I actually ended up buying him out after 3 years. But I totally fell in love with it because I was always a geek. I love chemistry. I had a chemistry set. I blew things up as a kid, and my ceiling was stained with, stuff. I mean, it was just, I just like to tinker with stuff. I like learning. I'm a lifetime learner. So with me in Florida, there's never a shortage of new bugs, new problems coming in. I thrive on being on that cutting edge of learning and seeing what's coming in. And I got 12 insects a year on average, or more sometimes, in Florida. Most deal with ag, but we get so much of it, it crosses over to ornamentals. I have a passion for ornamentals. I just can't find the people that are passionate about working at 80 degrees outside with chemicals and bugs in a landscape, and want to learn plants, want to learn diseases, want to learn pests, want to learn nutrition, want to learn agronomy. It's a lot.
I know.
And therefore I am, from a business model, I'm thinking it's just much easier just to do GPC, 7 ants, 2 roaches, and a flea and a tick. And, there's 20 insects that we really got to know.
But that's not really what it is anymore, because it's changing for us too, as those bugs come in. I mean, crazy ants, it took us, I don't know, we started dealing with crazy ants in Houston about the year that I started. About 2009, 2010. It's the first time I heard of crazy ants here in Houston.
Right.
And just in the last 2 years, we finally figured out how to realistically control them and keep them from attacking homes. And
this is tawny crazy ant?
Yeah, the tawny crazy ants.
Yeah, got it.
I mean, it took us like 8 years to figure out how to effectively treat them and keep them gone. 8 years. Trying and experimenting and playing with that and figuring out what works and trying new products and reading about the new product. That's the big thing, is keeping up with the industry. What new products are coming out? What's their mode of action? How is this different from everything else? That is the fascinating part. I tell everybody that my favorite part about this job is there's something new every day. And I do GPT, but there's something new every day. You walk into a house, you've never seen something before. I mean, you can't possibly, there's billions of bugs, billions of different types of bugs. You can't possibly have seen everything. No. You can't possibly know whatever. And people constantly send me pictures. Lisa, you're the bug girl. What's this? Lisa, you're the, dude, I'm going to submit it to the same program you can get. And I'm going to let you know what it says, because I can't possibly know everything.
Yeah.
If it's super fascinating or super interesting, I'm going to send it to my friend at Texas A&M. And I'm going to have her see if she can figure out exactly what it is. But most of the time it's a common beetle, and they've just never seen it before. But the inspection, the why are these here? These should not be here. That is the fun part of the job for me.
Right.
But it's almost impossible to find passion in this industry. But when they do, those are the people who become their own bosses.
Yeah, usually with me is I realize that 90% of the people that are going to work for me are going to pass through. I just accepted the fact that they needed a job. They're going to do it. And some of them can do the technical part very well. Mm-hmm. It's when it comes to the start asking questions, especially what I find with millennials, it's very hard for them to engage the client in asking questions because they feel that they're bothering the person. I got to teach them, like, look, your job is to be inquisitive. Every time that you failed, and I go always back to this, every time you fail, it's usually because you didn't dig hard enough. If right. you know, whether it was because you felt rushed or you had too many stops, you couldn't wait. And my guys don't get it. We do about at the most 11 stops a day, tops. There's no, and especially if he has starts, I give him 2 hours for a start because I don't know what he's going to run into.
Right.
So, and I understand that he's a millennial. He's 25. He's a college student, lives at home with mom and dad. And he doesn't have that inquisitive to just why until I irritate you. And but that's something I think, and that, so I'm constantly coaching. I said, go ahead and call the client and ask him this question. I won't do it for him. Mm-hmm. I make him, and I can see his uncomfort level and doing that. And I think you're right. That is the most important part is why is it here? You know, what's the contributing condition to it? You know, right. If we can ask why, when you read the book, Start With Why, it's an amazing book that I think everyone should read. And I think, you know, it goes to wiring. It's, you know, if you're not wired to be inquisitive, the reason I'm successful at it, because I love spending that time in the field.
Right.
Toying with stuff to find out what works and what fails. And I can fail 100 times and I don't see failure where they fail 10 times and they're totally demoralized.
And I think that a lot of that is how we train our people. I don't
Yeah.
expect a revolving door. I have guys who worked for me at Orkin 8 years ago who are just waiting for me to be big enough to pay them.
Right.
They're calling me, hey, when are you going to be able to hire me? Look, dude, I can't pay you what you're making. I mean,
It's
I
a
can't pay
reality. Yeah.
but I have guys who would come to work for me tomorrow if I could pay them.
Right.
So the training and the coaching is really important. And what that same guy who I was telling you about, it's almost 7 foot tall and he followed me to 2 companies, and he's fantastic. He's still in the industry. He's recently been promoted to management. Um, and he is the guy, he is the kid. When I was real new, he was one of my first hires. And he is the kid who taught me mode of action. He was fascinated. He was like, oh, the label is law. He read every label in detail all the way down. Then he went and he was like, I don't understand why this is this and that's not, even though they have the same active. So he started doing digging and research. And I'm like, what are you, just go kill the bugs, man.
Yeah.
That was when I was new. But he woke me up to the importance of knowing the why. And
Right.
now he is super successful in the business. And I learned from him how to teach others. His desire to find that why opened up the why in me. So I try to share
Yeah.
that with people I hire and get them as involved in that why, and try to make sure that I'm
Right.
coaching them through
Yeah.
the importance of that, because it's not, even if this is going to be a temporary job for you, someday you're going to grow up and get a different job. But your
And that's the
why,
conversations I'm having, because I
why is
love.
going to
Yeah.
be important. It's
Yeah.
going to be
No.
important in your job too. Why am
Yeah.
I doing this? Why am I
Right.
here? What is the purpose? If you don't have a why, what's
Yeah.
the point of getting up?
Right. No, and I agree, because I realize he's going to move on. He's studying to be a physical therapist. He's got another 2 years. And I said, look, honestly, I can be totally selfish and keep you here, because he's a good tech. He is. I mean, I only get involved in maybe one a week if I'm lucky. Sometimes I'll go 2 to 3 weeks and I get involved in anything because it's done. And so I get the pictures. Hey, look, I dug deeper and I found this under here. So it does but what I think, but you come from management, you come from corporate, and I'm going to go on a limb here and say most of the men in this industry do not come from that environment. They come from the blue collar side of the work, the tech work, the pure tech work.
Right.
The biggest struggle in coaching that I'm doing, and in talking to guys mostly that I'm dealing with, is the fact that they don't know how to train, and
Yeah.
they don't have the patience to train, that's what's stifling their growth.
That's the advantage to having worked for a big company, because
Yeah.
the training is amazing.
Right.
I mean, it's amazing. You get 2 weeks in the office watching videos. I mean, Snorefest, but you do learn a lot.
Right.
And then 2 weeks riding along with people. And I think the big thing for me, when I hired, I didn't wait until I needed. I started hiring in advance, because that was the one problem that I saw all the time when I worked for the big companies. They waited until there was an open route, and then they hired somebody, and now you're rushing them through training, and you're killing yourself as the service manager trying to get stuff done and train them into it. So I was like, no, I'm not
because of
doing
the KPIs. You can't.
Right. And
Yeah.
so for me, as a small business, I have a little more flexibility with that. So when I noticed that it was coming to a point, I had my guys ride with me for 3 solid months. Ride in the truck with me. Let's do the route together for 3 solid months. That way you've hit every one of my quarterly customers with me.
Right. Yeah, we can accelerate that because we're monthly.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can accelerate that process, because he can hit all of the accounts in less than 2 months, because we have bi-monthly. We don't do quarterly.
Well, most of mine is bi-monthly now too, but I still have some of those quarterlies from when I first started and I was taking anything.
Why did you switch from quarterly to bi-monthly?
Because in Houston, it's very similar to Florida, and the products are made to last up to 90 days. You got extreme rain, you got extreme heat. They're not lasting 90 days. They just aren't. And I call myself prevention, not control. I'm not here to fix the problem. I'm here to prevent the problem.
Yep.
And if I'm going to prevent it, I need to be doing it at least every other month.
Yeah. So because you built a business that's entomologically sound, it is not based on, well, this is more profitable to do it quarterly.
Right.
Versus the experience of the customer, where we have a 5 to 6% callback rate. If I went to quarterly, I'd be at 20%.
Yeah, and I don't even have that. I think I've got a 2%.
Yeah, we
But
right now we're getting murdered with the rain. I'm getting.
yeah, that's killing us too. But what the big thing for us is, you were saying that you do 10, 11 stops a day. We do 8 tops.
Yeah.
And my new starts, I always give 2 hours.
Yeah,
but my
the same here.
but my every stop. Well, I mean, each guy does 8. But I've got them all doing. They've all got an hour. Every
Yeah.
stop has an hour, and on
Yeah.
average, we spend 45 minutes at every home. We're being really, really thorough. We don't have callbacks.
Right.
If we're spending 45 minutes at your house every other month, I guarantee you we're fixing your problem.
Yeah.
So we don't have callbacks, and when we do, we address them right away. And usually,
Yeah.
I'm the one who goes and takes care of it.
What I've learned is, we're balancing that because we have so much windshield time because we're so small. We don't have the big route density. On average, my guy will do, if we got good route density, like here in the South where I'm at, he can pull 12 stops because we're exterior only. But we're very thorough on that initial. In other words, find every hole in that house that needs to be plugged and plug it. If we do the sealing, we include that in our service. As far as sealing underneath pipes, trying to figure out outside if anything needs seal. He will spend the time that he needs to on that initial. So we only do 1 start a day. I try not to book more than that because then it gets too hard for him he feels rushed that he's not going to finish by the end of the day, especially when we get into winter where you got to be done by 5 because a lot of times you just can't see. And people get upset. You're doing their pest control. Like we need to see where we put the chemical outside,
right?
Because the bugs obviously need to be seen in the dark. So we're struggling with what I'm focused this year, which is a big challenge for us. Is who do we hire? Because of the same things you pointed out. I can't give you that much flexibility, so I can give you a 4-day work week. And I can give you, if you want to start at 9 instead of 7, start at 9. And then if we have to finish later that day, you finish later, it's okay. But they got Saturday and Sunday off.
Right.
Because we don't work. I used to work Saturday and Sunday when I ran it. I said, I don't want to do that. People are not thinking like me. I know it. I just accept that nobody's going to work as hard as me. That's just a given. I don't have that expectation of my people.
Yeah, I don't.
I have the expectation that I just need you to do your job well. And if you do your job well, and you do this, and this, and you get a review here and get a review there, it's enough. I don't need you to sell. I do the selling. I want you to focus on tech because of the biggest complaints when I see from all the large companies, the burnout.
Yeah.
That happens very quickly.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. And it's funny though, because those big companies have set up an expectation that if you call an 800 number, you're going to have somebody there that day.
Yeah.
Even on Saturdays.
Yeah.
And so I've got my hours listed as I'm open from 8 to 12 on Saturday. But I'm not scheduling services from 8 to 12 on Saturday. I'm open on 8 to 12 on Saturday so that if one of my existing customers gets bed bugs, I can go spend 4 hours at their house on Saturday morning and fix it for them.
Right.
Or if I got to do an exclusion that's going to take a few hours, or I got to do a back job, I'm going to schedule it on Saturday because during the week we're busy. We've got scheduled services. So that's what my Saturday is for. And I'm answering the phone and I'm scheduling services for the following week. But no, I'm not putting your regular service on a Saturday morning. It's not going to happen. Well, you say you're open on Saturday. I am, but not for that. Right. And people have these unrealistic, this entire country, I think, I don't know about the rest of the world, but this country has this immediate gratification thing. They want that immediate gratification. And it's not possible to give the people who work for you, work-life balance and fulfill the immediate gratification needs of every person.
Yeah. So we decided to cut it off. I don't, I always say we live in the instant download society now. Remember you grew up during microwaves and and you got impatient waiting 5 minutes. People are impatient waiting 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And everybody expects, like, I ordered my food on this app and if the food isn't there in 15 minutes, they're losing their mind. And what I didn't understand is I got to send a physical person. You can't download an app to control your bugs. I got to send a physical person. I literally have to explain this to customers. I said, and understand that if we got a route that day and it's already booked, I'll try to fit you in. My guy will work a little bit longer. He'll try. But at the end of the day, this is a human business that people have to be there. And I can't just find someone off the street and throw them in your home. Right. And say, here, fix this customer's. I mean, it's not that easy. It's training. It involves finding the right person with the right aptitude.
Yep.
It's a whole complex, and people don't understand. Well, it's not like delivering Amazon packages where you just look at an address and you threw it on the door and you're done.
That's exactly what they do too, is throw it on the door.
Yeah, that's not what we do. And then you want a competent person, and I send you a 25 and said, can you come and do it? I don't feel comfortable with that new kid. I'm like, dang, you're danged if you do and you're danged if you don't. So I am, always trying to figure out, how can we, like right now I'm looking at split. We're in a 24-hour town. Miami is a 24-hour town. I got people calling my call center, answering service at 2-3 in the morning, wanting a technician at 2-3 in the morning. Yeah. I don't know if they just got out of a bar and they were drunk and decided, they're going to need a pest control technician, or if, they just got home from work and they work days and, they get at night and they don't have time. But it's tough getting the people that are interested. It's not like, we look at the numbers. What is it? 137,000 last number I checked of technicians in this country. And it's not that many. It's like one for like every, when you look at the numbers, is about for every 10% of homes, there's one technician. So it's not a field where, like air conditioning, where we have 500 technicians in air conditioning, 500,000, and plumbing and electrical services. It's one of the most unique home service industries in the world.
And I just found out something really interesting. Do you know that female techs on average make about $500 a year more than male techs?
No, I did not know that. How?
Yeah. I just saw it in a PMP article. I was doing some research for this talk, and on average, this is one of the only industries where your starting technician makes more than the females make more than the men.
Interesting.
On average, yep, about $500 more a year.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was really surprised. I was very surprised.
I was shocked too, because most of the time women are underpaid in every category.
Right, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so big on getting more women into this industry. Yeah. There isn't a glass ceiling here. I mean, truly, Nolan is run by a woman. There's so many women who are on the upper management. This is
right.
Still
Arrow.
People do not understand that this is still one of the only industries where you can literally work your way from a technician to the CEO without a college degree. I mean, you just have to put in the time. Yeah. And be good at what you do. You can work your way all the way up. And
that's another issue with younger people, that if the expectations aren't met, I think within 30 days, they tend to bounce a lot. I said this takes time. I set the expectations. I said, look, I'll be patient with you if you're patient with yourself, because a lot of the time they're impatient. They want, like, I'm not learning everything I need to learn. I said, dude, there's no instant download for this. I can't dump 15 years of knowledge on you. It takes time. You need to be, I literally have to slow my text down. It's be patient with yourself.
Well, and you have to run into the situation. I mean, I can't teach you something if it's not there to be taught. So I can't teach you how to do a roach clean out until we get a roach clean out. I can't teach you how to do an exclusion until we get an exclusion. And this exclusion is going to be different than that exclusion. So you're not going to see everything on this one. You're going to have to do a bunch of them, and it comes with time and it comes with experience.
It's not like burgers. The burgers don't walk off your grill.
Right.
Yeah. It's Manny. I mean, what I hate when I'm teaching, I hate teaching. I'll only, even guys have told me, says, do you use pictures? I says, I do not use pictures. I says, pictures will do a tremendous amount of damage, because they don't have a reference to do it. So I teach only biology. And I said, this is what I want you to memorize about this bug. When we come across this bug, it will make sense to you when you're seeing it. And they have to wait till we get, like, big-headed ant. It might be a month before he sees a big-headed ant job, where there's a problem. German roaches are easy. We can crank those out every day, but like a flea job. I mean, flea jobs are 1% of my business. He could go an entire year and never see a flea. I can show him a flea on paper, and it's like, what am I going to do when I come across this situation? Because the younger people are so afraid of making mistakes.
Yeah.
How they're going to look if they make the mistake, that they're so concerned about how people are going to perceive them. I said, listen, you fake it till you make it at that point, because.
But you know what, Franklin, you say that, but when we were younger, we were afraid of making mistakes too. That's not a generational thing. That's a young thing. That's
It's just me, because
when I was younger,
yeah.
I was afraid of making mistakes. I expect, and I think maybe it's just a woman thing. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just a me thing. But I think that when you're first starting and you're younger, regardless of your generation, you want to do a good job. You want to be perceived as more knowledgeable than you are. So you feel worse when you make a mistake. As you age, you realize that mistakes are just part of life. And as long as you own them, apologize for them, and correct it, it doesn't matter. That's how you learn, is by making mistakes.
Right.
So when you're younger kids don't understand that. And I don't think that's generation X, Z, Y, or Z or purple. It's just young. And it's a lack of experience in general.
Yes, I think it has to do with being a Cuban male, that I just dive in first and ask questions later. But that's just the way I've always been wired. But see, I because I've been dealing with young people in ministry for a long time, and for 20 something years. So I've built teams with young people. I'm constantly around them, but I enjoy being around them, because they're always challenging, and they still, that naiveness. It's also very, for me as a business person, not to become stagnant. That I don't want to say this is the way it's done and there's no other new way to do it, when things are constantly changing. So I enjoy being around young people, because they bring that energy to the table. They bring that. It's almost like a blissful ignorance sometimes, which is great, because I can appreciate it. I can say, yeah, I can see your point, but here's probably why it won't work. But they constantly. So I enjoy that, and I think it's, most of the people in the blue collar in this industry have a difficult time with that. They want to hire the 41 typical 44-year-old man who they don't have to train, because they want to do everything by abdication instead of delegation. And it's much easier just to drop somebody, because I'm busy running a company and I don't have time to babysit everybody.
Right.
Where to me, I am more of a nourisher.
Right. I want to grow my company organically, and I want to grow it the correct way. I want everybody who comes on my team to be as capable as the next person.
Yeah.
And I have a problem with the idea of hiring somebody who's already experienced, because they're experienced the way they were trained, not the way I'm going to train them. I'm going to train them a completely different way. And I don't want their bad habits from their last job to roll into mine. If you worked for a company and you were required to do 20 stops a day, you're not going to fit in my company. You're just not. That's not the way we roll.
Yeah.
You need to take more time. You need to be more investigative. You need to figure out why. You need to, and even if there's nothing wrong with that property and you're basically just doing an exterior spray and getting the heck out of Dodge, spend the time. Look at the eaves. See if there's something going on. Check the pipe voids. See if you can make recommendations. Are the trees touching the roof? Do we need to offer services for that? Look around and spend the time. It's not just about walking around and spraying the foundation and getting out of Dodge. That's not what we do. So hiring somebody with experience is a real problem in that respect, because it's hard to break bad habits.
Yeah, no, and that's been my challenge. I've hired, people like say, you just refuse to hire them. I said, no, I give them a chance. But I have one guy that, he's very young, and he got very impatient because he was used to doing 15 to 20 stops a day. When he was on a property more than 20 minutes, he started getting fidgety.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I'm in pay. I want to get out of this property already. I've been here too long. I said, dude, I have properties I'll spend 6 hours on,
Yeah.
And they can't. So the unbreaking of those habits, it's much harder than me training somebody with the right aptitude and the attitude to do it. Cause it really isn't that difficult. It's just the time that it takes. And you have to want to look at that stuff. You
Yeah.
can't, if you go in and you're like, okay, I dusted all the spot, I did all the application, I did everything. And then, what are they complaining about? So by the time, usually my rule is 3 strikes and I get involved.
Yeah.
So I tell them you get, and like I said, very few, we have properties that are problematic. We just know, I said, guy, that house, you're going to be going back. Just know it. It's going to be a problem because they're not going to fix these issues. But we let them know it's in writing. And if they don't fix them, that's on them. But then they get frustrated that, man, I'm going back to this house. I feel like a failure. I said, it's not your fault. You've done what you're supposed to do. But if after 3 strikes on a regular basis, I get involved, and then usually it's, here's what you missed.
Yeah.
And you didn't see it. And I can understand why you didn't see it. But those are the coaching moments but he has to accumulate those coaching moments throughout a couple of years so that he's an expert in 2 to 3 years, not in 90 days and not in a year.
Right. And that is a training issue, and
Yeah.
it's time. That's all
it is. And a lot of people are just so impatient with their careers. They want to move up. Like, they want to come in and say, when can I be a manager? I said, look, realistically, we're a 3-man company. You're not going to be a manager here for 5 to 6 years. If I grow now, if you're a hustler and you can help me grow, yeah, we can accelerate this process. But if you're expecting me to feed you a career, it's not going to happen. And the problem is that when we look at most small businesses around the country, it doesn't matter if it's pest control or electrical or a store. The majority of small business, there is no upward mobility, and people want fast upward mobility. It's just not there. You need to go to the big corporate company, but then you're a cog in a wheel and you feel like you're just a number.
But that's what I think is the best thing about pest control. I'm not afraid of my really good techs starting their own company. There's plenty of work to go around.
Yeah.
So when people are like, well, I want to know how I can grow, look, if you get really good at this, there's no reason why you can't start your own in a few years. Yeah, I'm not going to hold you back.
Yeah. Now I offered it. I have offered franchises to my techs.
You can't take my clients, but you can go open your own business. I'm not stopping you from doing that. Yeah. And I'm not even going to tell you can't do exactly what you do things exactly the same way I do. Heck, I'll franchise it for you. I'll set you up. I'll do all the HR. I'll carry all the insurance. I'll do all this.
Yeah. I've
I'll
offered
do
it
for you.
Yeah.
You can start your own if you can grow it, but you have to be able to grow it.
Yeah. And you're not going to work for 35, 40 hours. There's no.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
not going to
working
happen.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That phone is on my hip, and it rings constantly. I don't always answer it, but it does ring. So I do need to cut this off, but I wanted to.
Thank you.
I wanted to say one thing. We have the Women in Pest Control Conference coming up. It's our 2nd annual. It should be our 3rd, but COVID kind of put a damper on that. It's our 2nd annual conference. It's coming up September 30th, October 1st, here in Houston. All of our vendors will have female reps. All of our speakers will be females, and all of our attendees will be females. This is the 2nd time we've done it. The reason why we do it this way is because we're not just talking about pest control. We're talking about clothing that fits women better. We're talking about how to find restroom breaks because we can't just go behind a bush somewhere. We're talking about things that are very specific.
Well, the guys shouldn't do it either, but they
shouldn't, but we know they do. We're talking about things that are pretty specific to women, which is why we're trying to keep this a safe space. In the future, we might open it to men, but we haven't. Right now, it's very, very new, and we want to keep it a very safe space for women to talk about issues that affect them. So it's not because we're excluding men; it's because we need a space for women. And, I mean, things like backpack sprayers and where they connect, that's, it's an issue for us that I don't think a lot of men talk about, but how do you hook that backpack sprayer so you're comfortable and it's not affecting your parts.
Yeah.
Things like this are things we need to be able to talk about openly and ask questions to other women in this industry and not be made fun of when we ask.
Yeah.
And when you go to some of these groups and you ask these kind of questions, we get made fun of. Oh,
Course.
just suck it up, little girl.
Yeah.
No, I shouldn't have to suck it up. I should be able to ask questions.
Yeah.
I should be able to get help. And I should not be teased for asking questions. So that's what Women in Pest Control is for. That's what the group was made for. It's a safe space for us to ask for help. It's a safe space for us to share our jokes and our humor without being put down or marginalized or made fun of, whatever the
Yeah.
case may be. And it's just a safe space for us. So we're not here to exclude men. We love men. But we are here to give women a safe space. So
No,
I would
I totally agree, and it's fine. It's not, you know, it's this idea that if you make something exclusive, that somebody gets offended. I think, that's fine. That's what it should be. We don't expect the Girl Scouts to let Boy Scouts. They have Boy Scouts.
But the Boy Scouts has recently let girls in.
Yeah. And so, it's one of those things where, hey, if you want to do it, I encourage you to do it. I encourage you to come back, talk about the conference, to have the speakers come on the podcast and talk about.
Yeah, and we're really excited. I mean, BASF is a sponsor.
Right.
The Ceres is a sponsor. NICIS is a sponsor. I mean, we've got some really big companies that are coming on board with this. And we're super excited. Gorilla Desk is going to be there, which is, I don't know if Gorilla Desk is one of the saving graces of my life as a small business owner. It saves me about 17 hours.
Yeah, no, I know Chris and his brother down here, because his brother owns a pest control business down here. So no, I'm familiar with it. Yeah, and I love the way they've come along in that software. I mean, I can't switch now because it's just switching platforms.
It's so hard.
Last time it cost me 6 months worth of admin work. I can't go through that again. So, at the time, Pest Routes was a better option for me. Than they weren't that advanced. But if anybody asked me now, what would I use if I was starting out and I had 10 routes? I said Gorilla Desk is perfect. They've come a long way. So yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I'm excited for you. I'm excited for what you're doing. I really do. I've had Janet Early on here, Kinserly. She's phenomenal.
She was a speaker last year.
I just had Janet from now I forget her name because she's got the Italian last name, from Texas. You know her from IPM.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
she was just
her last name is right here, and I can't say it either.
I know either. So no worries. But yeah, so I mean, if they want to come on and discuss those issues that they discussed on the podcast, you're welcome. I really do encourage this. I encourage this dialogue, and hopefully we can make it better for everybody. I think
I think that we can. I think we one of the things is we need to nip this stuff in the bud when the guys are getting snarky or when they're saying things that are just wrong. We need men to stand up and be our advocates. Say.
I actually did that, and I did it the wrong way, and it bit me in the butt because I was actually defending the comment I made was because he said the one of the women who's a business owner. Just on the record, I think I did it already, but anyway, she's a business owner. She's third generation. Made a comment, says, I really don't think that women this in the field because of the long term. And he says, how dare you say that women shouldn't be? What are you doing arguing with a woman on her opinion?
But her opinion is very similar to some of the other opinions I saw from men. It's limiting by gender.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're a male or a female. I don't care who has this opinion. You cannot put us all in a box because of our gender. Yeah. Some women can do this and some women can't, but some men can do this and some men can't.
Absolutely.
And overall, women outlive men. We tend to have harder lives. We give birth. I mean, come on, that level of pain, unless you've had a kidney stone, you don't understand it. It's pretty intense.
Okay, now I understand it. I've had a kidney stone.
But imagine that for 9 months, right?
Right.
Okay. So we can handle pain, we can handle the work. It's just a matter of whether or not you want to. And it's the same for men. They can handle it, they can do the work, but do they want to? And that is not about gender. That is about a want, that is about a need, and that is about a give a shit. And so
I
even
agree.
a woman can be wrong in her opinion if she says that women don't belong in the field, or women don't want to be in the field, or women shouldn't be in the field. That's wrong. I don't care if it's a man saying it or a woman saying it, it's wrong. Not every woman fits your mold of a woman,
Right.
and not every man fits your mold of a man.
Yeah. No, I'd be interested in listening to more if you know if they want to come on, especially owners. And there's different dynamics. There's owners who are single, owners who are married, who work with their spouses. They're different dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
I really, I like to look at the big picture. I says, how can you look at the big, so they want to come on, that they're welcome, that that they're welcome. I have two already booked that, they own businesses. They started, I'm trying to get a third one who owns a very large one. They've got 30 employees. Her and her husband run that. And, so there's a lot of room.
Yeah.
And I think making the opportunity available is where I'm, if you want it, then you want to do it and you can do it. Great. More power to you.
Yeah, I agree.
So
Um,
have I redeemed myself?
well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, there's things
Yeah.
that you said that I,
Yeah.
because of who you are and because of whatever, there are things that you have said in the past that I don't think you can redeem
Yeah.
until you show going forward that you're going to be an advocate for us. Every time you
Okay.
hear or say or see something in any of the groups, um, you know, Pest Cemetery, Pest Fraternity, Pest anything, when you post something like you did the other day, what's your best pest pickup line? That's misogynist as hell,
I
frankly.
see. I thought it was funny.
It's not funny because,
Yeah.
and it could be funny if the comments would have been um well thought out instead of sexist, but
Right.
so many of them were sexist and nobody called out the sexist ones.
Right.
So I don't have a problem with a joke. I don't have a problem with a joke. I'm not one of those people. But when the joke turns sexist, somebody needs to say something to the person who turned it sexist.
Right.
And you're not being an advocate if you're not. So if you're allowing that to be on your page and not calling people out on that, hey, this was kind of a little over the top, don't you think? Then you're not being an advocate. And,
Right.
I'm looking at some of these comments and Aaron Veal, whatever, don't be so butthurt. I'm not butthurt, man. I'm not. I have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very happy to share jokes and make jokes, but you cannot put women down just because they are women and think it's funny. And rape jokes are not okay.
No, I agree.
And rape jokes are the reason why I'm not in Pest Cemetery anymore, because that's just full of them. I can't stand that place anymore.
Yeah, that's not right. No, and I even commented. I said, guys, some of these are like, you know, uh, not not cool. But at one point, do you say, as a person, it says, when if I remove it, I've removed comments from, I had one person that, and that was attacked. She was attacked on my page, and I privately messaged her and said, listen, I'm sorry that happened, that was said to you. It's not the way I believe it. Do I delete it all? But she engaged and she held her own. So I just like, okay, she set him straight. And that's fine, but understand that. And a lot of the women know that are listening to me. I said, I reached out. I said, hey, I feel bad that this happened. And a lot of the women that are on there know me because they've actually talked to me personally. That's not the way I think at all. But yeah, I can see how I would say something and it's like, but I say stupid stuff all the time that have nothing to do with women either.
I
So
appreciate you reaching out to the women privately and saying something, to them, but you should say something publicly.
yeah.
So, it can't just be in private. It can't just be behind the scenes. We have got to start calling this stuff out as it happens,
Yeah.
Publicly in front of their faces, shaming men for shaming women.
Yeah.
If you're going to be putting women down just because of their gender, then other men need to shame those men for being that way. It is
Right.
the only way this is going to change.
Right.
You know, I don't have any sympathy for somebody who is just mean. I mean, and some of
Right.
these comments were mean,
Yeah.
downright mean.
Yep.
And it- it- I go about my life from a place of love and service.
Right.
I want to serve others. I want to love others. I have no reason to hate you or to hate anybody else, especially if I don't know you, and
Right.
particularly because of your gender or your sexual orientation, or I don't care. Live
Right.
your life, love each other. You know, you call yourself a Christian. Jesus's biggest commandment is love each other.
Right.
So love each other. Come from a
Yeah.
place of love and stop beating each other up.
No,
And
I
when
agree.
and when somebody beats somebody up because of their gender, you have to call it out.
Yeah,
And
and
you
no,
have
and I even did when somebody was on there badgering this person. I went. I mean, if you look through the thread and you see it says, man, you know, that's not what you're called to do. I mean, that, you know, you're out of line. I mean, I do it, especially, and I've deleted certain comments that were really off color. But you know, if some people like the engagement and like to just keep going, and
yeah, keyboard warriors are a thing.
yeah,
It's really
and
easy to hide behind that keyboard and pretend like, you know, you're changing the world or saving the world or making the world a different place because of your opinions. But, you know, go out there in public and say that to somebody's face and be surprised if you don't get smacked. You know, I mean,
yeah, yeah.
it,
No,
if
I'm
you
with you.
say it to somebody face to face in person, then you shouldn't be typing it on the computer. And if you did type it on the computer and it was typed on my timeline, I'm going to call them out on it. You realize how sexist this is, or how racist
Right.
this is, or how homophobic this is, or whatever it is. I'm going to call them out on it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say, you are the idiot. You are the problem.
Yeah.
You know, your attitude is the problem.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. I thank you. Thank you for being on, and thank you for having this discussion about it. And the reason I don't do a lot of stuff in the group. I actually don't post a lot of stuff in the group. I do it on my personal page, where it's out in the open, where it's not being hidden to where, only certain people can see it. I've always had an issue with that. And I said, do we need, I understand there's groups that are fun just to be in, like a cigar group, and you want to talk about cigars.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're talking about a lot of these issues, and I am a face in the industry, I don't want to hide it behind a group. And that's why I'll put the stuff on my personal page. You know, then I can't, it can't be hidden. But a lot of the time, understand that I realize that I'm a prick. I prick people into the discussion, and then I bring out really what most people are thinking.
Well, and I get it that you're trying to get people to discuss things, but there's ways to get people to discuss things without having to be an asshole about it.
Yeah. I know. I get it.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, ma'am. Take care.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye.